Okay, we're going to go ahead and get this webinar started. I want to thank everyone again for coming today. Really appreciate you taking the time to come and listen and learn about SnowGage and about our new sensor that we're releasing this upcoming season. Well, in this webinar today, we're going to review the SnowGage system. We're going to review the new sensor, and within the SnowGage system, we're going to review the tablet application that runs inside the groomer, and we're going to review the office application that runs in the office. And then we'll talk a little bit about SnowGage pricing and comparing it to other SnowGage options, snow depth options in the market. So a little bit of background here. I'm Paul Kelley. I'm the SnowGage account manager. I've been working with SnowGage for about 4 years now, and I work at Juniper Systems. What we do at Juniper Systems is we build rugged devices. We sell these all over the world. We have a factory here in Utah, and we design, manufacture, and build these components and use them in lots of different industries around the world. The components are also used in the SnowGage system, which is pretty cool that we actually build the equipment ourselves here. So it's one of the benefits of SnowGage. This is our building. We're located in Logan, Utah, and we're a sister company of Campbell Scientific. Campbell Scientific is across the street from us. So this is Campbell Scientific here, and Juniper Systems is just across the street over here. So if you're familiar with Campbell Scientific, they do weather monitoring. I'm sure there's some of the ski resorts have some weather stations. Campbell Scientific is one of the leading companies in the world on building those weather stations. And so we work pretty closely with them on the SnowGage project and use our rugged device expertise and then their weather monitoring expertise to provide the SnowGage system. The one thing I want to start out here with is introducing the new sensor that we have with SnowGage. In the past, SnowGage has worked with an ultra wideband radar sensor, and I've put 2 images here on the screen to compare the difference between the sensors. This is our old sensor down here on the bottom, and what this is running the sensor over a pile of snow. So this is a man-made pile of snow at a ski resort, probably about 8 feet deep. And so the image is inverted because as you go over the pile, the ground is further away. So with our old sensor, you can see it was pretty granulated image. And the way the technology works is it scans down to the ground, finds the ground, and then we have an algorithm running that finds this layer here and then returns back a snow depth. So with our old system, it did pretty good when you had cold snow, high elevation resorts, but it did struggle when you had any sort of water content in the snow. And so with our new sensor, we've moved to ground penetrating radar, and this technology has come a long ways in the last few years. And we identified this opportunity and through testing have validated that this is a really good option for measuring snow. So this is the exact same pile of snow with the new sensor, and you can see how much more clear it is. So this is the ground layer right here. So this sensor is actually taking pictures of the ground, and then the algorithm has a much better time finding this ground layer, and it's much easier for the algorithm to find it even in wet snow conditions. And so this is a pretty cool technology that we're using now, and it's working really well in all of our testing, and we'll talk about it more as we go through the webinar. But this is a really cool graphic to kind of show you the improvement of this new sensor and how well it works with finding the ground and even seeing layers within the snow, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So just to compare the differences between our old sensor and our new sensor, like I mentioned, our old sensor struggled in wet snow. It struggled with ice layers because the ice layers would sometimes cause the sensor to think that's the ground, and it would sometimes return a inaccurate snow depth based on an ice layer. And it would also, the best it ever did was about 6 feet deep in cold, wet snow. With the new sensor, we're accurate to plus or minus 4 inches, even in wet snow. Even in that springtime meltdown, when there's water running through the snow, you're still going to get a good accurate reading. If you're making wet snow in the fall, you're still going to have accurate readings. Or if you have rain events throughout the winter, you'll still have accurate readings. So that's the huge thing with the new sensor, is how well it's going to work in all types of snow conditions. It also works well with ice layers, where it's so strong at finding the ground that it now doesn't reflect off of the ice layer. So that's one of the improvements with the new sensor that makes a really big deal. And then with the new sensor, it can read up to 20 to 30 feet deep, even in wet snow. So I want to just kind of go through the SnowGage system now, and just I'll talk a little bit more about the new sensor as we go through, but a lot of it stays the same. The sensor still mounts underneath the snowcat, and then inside the groomer you have this view right here. And so you have a constant snow depth, your miles per hour, your time of day, and then it maps that snow depth onto a summertime map, and we'll talk about that more later. It takes that data and it uploads it to the office every few minutes so that people can log into the website and view the snow depth data in the office. So in the snow groomer, what you have is real-time snow depth. So while you're grooming, you're able to see how deep the snow is underneath you and in front of you. You're able to prioritize your grooming by looking at that snow depth, so you can view the snow depths from the previous days, even from previous weeks within the groomer. You can see snow groomer position on the map, which is really good for a lot of resorts, and I'll kind of show a little demonstration of that later. You can move snow from high places to low places just by looking at your screen and seeing where the snow is and where the low points are. The system does send the data automatically through a cell connection or through Wi-Fi, and if either of those fail, your data is always stored in the tablet, and you can manually put that onto the website to view it in the office. Training on SnowGage is super easy, 5 minutes to train an operator, and really the minimum, you don't even have to train an operator. The only thing you have to do with SnowGage for it to collect data is to hit the power button. Once you hit the power button, it automatically starts working and collects all that data for the people that do want to view it. SnowGage will install on any snow groomer. We're not tied to any company. We're not even tied to Alpine groomers. We can install on any type of groomer or machinery that is used for snow, and it will measure the snow as it travels over the top of it. So these are the main components of SnowGage. This is the old sensor here, but the new sensor will be similar in size. I don't have a picture of it yet, but it'll be similar in size. So we kept these same pictures on here just so you can see the visuals. So the sensor mounts typically in the middle and towards the front. It's a little bit different on each snowcat, but there is a section on each snowcat where we have identified a place to mount the sensor, and it's always tucked up in like that. So it's nice and protected. This is a view from down below, and then as you can see in our graphic, it sends a pulse down to the ground, measures how deep it is. This is the geode sub-meter GPS receiver. This mounts in the snowcat, either under the console, or if it's like a bison, it mounts under the seat with the electronics. And then there's a patch antenna that runs to the outside of the cat, which receives the GPS signal. And this is a sub-meter GPS receiver, so the location you're seeing on the map is always within 1 foot accuracy. So it's really important to know, because using cell phones and other types of GPS, your accuracy can be anywhere up to 5 meters. And so it's nice to have this sub-meter accuracy when you're using the SnowGage system. This is the tablet, the Mesa 3 tablet that we mount into the snowcat to view the data. And once again, these are all components that we build here at our factory in Logan. So any sort of problems, issues we have with SnowGage, they're easily diagnosed by our team here on site in Logan, Utah. So SnowGage in the office, once the data uploads to the office, you're able to log into your own account and view the data historically. You can view the status on a secure website. You can determine your grooming priorities. What a lot of resorts do is they take the data from the night and they look at it and they create a grooming plan for the following day. We also have snowmaking, and they'll take the data and identify where to make snow, where not to make snow. Rather than just turning on snowmakers everywhere, you're able to use this data to save a lot of money and being precise with your snowmaking. We also track some statistics with the GPS, and I'll go through this later and actually show you a report, but it tracks things like hours groomed, total distance traveled, items like that. And I'll show you that a little bit more later. So I want to show you the actual groomer view, and I've put a little recording of some steps here. So inside the cat, this is exactly what you'll see. This is the graph view. There's a few different views on the screen, and this is the graph. So as you're moving, this depth number changes constantly to whatever the depth is under the snow. This is your miles per hour, time of day, and then you've got these color bins which are customizable by you. You set these up to be whatever you want. So this is less than 8 inches, 8 to 18 inches, and those tell you how deep the snow is. This is a really nice view because it gives you an actual linear picture of what you've traveled over. So, I mean, you can see here visually that you just traveled over a little snow pile that went from about 18 inches up to 40 inches. So it's a really good linear view in contrast to the map view, which we'll look at here in a minute. So you have this map view, and then we have this help button here, and we put that on there so that you never have downtime with SnowGage. Anytime you have any issues, or even if you have questions, you can submit a help message here, and it goes to our SnowGage support technicians who are on hand all through the night. We spend many nights replying back and helping customers so that their system, so they're able to use it the best they can, answer questions for them, or even help them get it going if for whatever reason it stops working. And then over here you have units. This is just changing it from imperial to metric. So if you like the centimeter view, it'll switch it to centimeter view and change this graph to centimeters, or switch it back to imperial. Now you're viewing it back in inches. This is the map view, and you're able to see where you are. And this is a summertime map. So this is a really handy thing for resorts because you're seeing the image of your resort in summertime. And then these colors, same color bins, are mapped onto the map wherever you drive and represent the depth of the snow. You still have your real-time depth up here that changes as you're moving. You can zoom out to view your resort. You can zoom in pretty tight. You can move the map around with your fingers to see different parts of the ski resort. If you do move it around, you need to get back to where you are. You just hit this target button right here, and that puts you right back to where you are. And one of the really important things about SnowGage that a lot of our customers use, this little dot represents where you are. And as I mentioned earlier, you're using a sub-meter GPS receiver. So this is exact where you are to within 1 foot. So for example, this can be used if you have a new groomer that's not familiar with the mountain. They can use it to navigate back using the summertime view. If you're in whiteout conditions or dangerous situations, you can use it to navigate through that. And a really important thing that a lot of resorts use is they use it to plow out or to cut out their spring roads. A lot of times you don't know exactly where the road is underneath the snow if there's not markers around or trees. So you would take this dot and put it right on this road and just start cutting, and now you know exactly where you're plowing out your new road in the spring, and you don't have to guess, or you don't have to wait for the snow to melt. So that's a really good feature to have with this actual satellite map. So it's real time. This is where you can view data from previous days. So you click over here, and now you're able to have the data from the previous night show up on the screen. That way you can see how deep the snow is in front of you as recorded from the night before. You can even view previous days if you'd like to, and then you can turn that off if you don't want to see the data in front of you. One feature we added in here is called project mode. This is for if you're going back and forth over the same spot multiple times. You want to turn that on so that you're not getting data on top of data, because then it's worthless data. So you push your pile out or whatever and then hit exit, and now run over your pile to get a depth. And so that helps it so that your data is not overlapping. This is console mode, just the background of what's going on with the system. Nothing really here that people need to know, but this is the lat and long and the depth of the sensors. That's a little overview of the tablet. Pretty simple. You just navigate up here from screen to screen, and very easy to use, big buttons. We built it that way so that groomers that aren't even computer savvy, they don't have to do anything. All they have to do is hit the power button and just watch it if they want, or not. If they don't want to, it'll just collect the data. So one view that we're looking at adding to these views here would be a raw wave view. And so with our new technology and it being such a good picture, we found that through testing that this is actually pretty valuable for people to see. And this is real data here. So for example, this snow right here is churned up snow. This is actually taken at a ski resort right after they created their pond skim. And so this snow is where they pushed out all the snow for the pond skim. And you can see all the different layers and things in here. Down here, this is actually a boulder right here. And there's ways to learn how to use these. This technology is actually used pretty commonly in finding underground assets to see stuff underground. And we're taking that and using it to find out how deep the snow is. But that application of seeing what is underground is still available. And so driving a snowcat, here you can actually see what is under your snow and what is underground. This right here is an ice layer. So a pretty significant ice layer. This is another little layer right here. And so what this view would do is as you're grooming, this would continue to move and show you what you just drove over. And it would show the algorithm tracking that ground line right there. So you would actually see the algorithm working, and then you'd see what's in your snow, what's underground. It's a great way to identify boulders, things under the snow, or anything like that. So that's something we're considering to put as a screen view in SnowGage. Now I want to look at the office view here. This is the website. So this is logged into an actual ski resort, and I'm going to turn off these Google labels. They kind of label all the ski runs and everything. So turn that off. Now this is actual data collected. So we're looking at February 12th of 2021, and it's just a great way to view your data, to look at your ski resort and see where your snow is and how deep it is. You can zoom in here, and each one of these data points actually represent a lat, a long, and a depth. And like I said, this is a sub-meter location. So in relation to this structure here, you know exactly that's right there is 3 feet deep. And so it's a great way to view your data. This is the main way to view it. You can, over here is where you can view by different groomers. So these are all the different groomers. You can turn it off and say, I want to see only where the bison drove or wherever the light wolf went. These are all of the ski resorts listed alphabetically. And the nice thing about this is these are all links. So you click on one and it zooms right to it. So rather than moving the map around, you can just click and it'll zoom to it. It also tells you the last time each run was groomed and what time of day it was groomed. And then on this map view, you can also see all of your mapped assets. This bogs a little bit when we're running a live stream on top of it, but so this is like mapping all the ski runs or hydrants. You can map all your hydrants. And all this data that you're seeing on the screen can also show up on the SnowCat in the groomer, and I can show you that here in a second. There's a lot of features in here. I won't go through all of them. I'll just kind of show you the basics, but there's a lot of cool features on different ways to view your data and different ways to sort it. But for the sake of time, we'll just keep moving along here. This is where you can change your color bins. This is, so I talked about those in the SnowCat. I was showing those color bins. Bear with me 1 second here. And you can customize those and set those up how you want. So these are, you can change them to whatever color you want, and you can add as many different bins as you want. So this one right now is 1 inch to 1 foot, and you could do every 3 inches, every 6 inches. You can add 20 of these if you want, or just have a few to keep it simple. But that's how you create your color bins that are tied to your depths. This is where you can map your assets. Hydrants, winch points, any asset you want on the ski resort to be mapped. Even if you already have it mapped, you can upload it here through a KML file and then just add all these labels. But so one thing that some resorts do is, like, say this, you want to map a winch point. Right here's you can add a point, an area, or a line. You just tap it right there, put it on the map where you want it to be, say what it is. Maybe this is a winch point, and then save it, puts it right there on the map. Down at the bottom, you'll see here this little blue mark. If this is checked, then this green icon will show up on the screen in the SnowCat on the tablet. So as the groomer's approaching this point, he'll see that green dot. He can tap on it, and whatever you have typed here will show up on the screen in the SnowCat. So this is also a great way to do project management. So you could do things like, you know, take this pile of snow. So you do a little area here like this, and you could put a little message in here like, move this pile of snow downhill, or something like that. So now when the groomer comes up here and they get to this point and they tap on this, they're going to see this message right here, as long as you have this little box checked. So it's a nice way to kind of relay messages with an accurate GPS element to it, to the groomers. And then you can just delete them by clicking right there. This page is where you can do your reports. You can generate a report manually from here, but we email a report every morning. So each person that you have on the email list will get this report, and I'll show it to you right now. So this is a view of the report. What it's going to do is give you, this is a bunch of statistics that it collects from the snow groomers. So this is idle time, grooming time, machine time. And remember that these numbers are based on the GPS. We're not tied into the engine. So this is idle time would be if the SnowGage system is on, if the cat is on, and if it's not moving. Grooming time is just if the cat is moving. So it's a great way to track efficiencies. It's a great way to track efficiency between one groomer versus another. And a lot of resorts even use it to track their fuel efficiencies with how much fuel they use, and then just use that with the average area groomed, or different things like that. So it gives you all these statistics here. It'll give you a snapshot view of your resort. This isn't a great picture, but it just gives you a quick snapshot view. And then if you need to dig in deeper, you log into the website to view your data on the website and to filter it there. So these are just different graphs by SnowCat. So you can see when this SnowCat was out, how fast it was going, you know, how long of breaks it took right here. This is average area covered with speed, so acres per hour, and then average miles per hour. So you can see different cats and how fast they're going. This is your total area covered and distance. So your acres, how many acres they went, how many miles, and then working time versus idle time and per cat. And then it just takes a picture of 2 low spots. It's totally random, just something we added in. If you want to just quickly identify low spots without searching all over your map, you can look here and it just identifies 2 low spots within the resort. And so that report is emailed every day to anyone you want to receive it, which is a nice feature. So now I'll go back here to the presentation. That's an overview of the office view of SnowGage. What I want to talk about now is a little comparison between the different technologies out there. SnowGage right now, with our new sensor, we'll be using ground penetrating radar. Some of the benefits of that is it's easy, 1-day installation and setup. We can come and install a system on any snow groomer in 3 to 5 hours. It's super easy to install it, doesn't take a whole lot of work. Calibration is a quick in-office calibration that you do maybe once or twice a year, but there's no constant calibration or anything like that. We wanted this to just work on its own. Snow depth accuracy is excellent, and it works in all snow conditions, which is a big improvement for us, and we're excited to announce that. So we don't do a fleet management. What we've done with SnowGage is we wanted to focus on snow depth, which we think is the most important and main thing that can help resorts save a lot of money. And our system, we wanted to keep it as affordable as possible by not adding a bunch of different things that you have to manage, but that you can just focus on your snow depth and be more efficient with your snowmaking and your grooming. And so we don't tie into the CAN bus or anything like that, or do any fleet management, which allows us to keep our costs pretty low, under 30,000. Even with the new sensor, we're still under 30,000, which is pretty amazing. So comparing that to the main other technology out there is RTK GPS, which is a really cool technology. Our company actually works a lot with other companies that do this type of technology, so we're pretty familiar with it. It is pretty difficult to set up. You have quite a lot of things you need to do to make GPS work well in the high mountains. And so there's a lot of mesh networks, base stations, correction points, and then you've got your original LiDAR scan, which is also quite a lot of work. Calibration not required. The snow depth is pretty good with the other technology. The exceptions are, we have heard that some have trouble in dense tree canopy because you are relying on GPS. And another thing that our system does is, since it's a sensor mounted under the snowcat, it's always going to read straight down from the snowcat. So even if the snowcat is on a side hill, it's reading sideways to the ground, whereas GPS always reads straight down. So if you're on a side hill with this system, then you're reading straight down instead of straight over to the ground, which means you're going to read a little bit deeper than what it actually is with this technology. Fleet management is available for them and costs over 100,000. So with SnowGage, like I mentioned, we've worked really hard to keep it affordable so that even mid to small size resorts can use this technology. And so for an outright purchase of under 30,000, gets you the full system. There is a data hosting yearly fee just to keep the data active and to cover the cost of transmitting the data. One thing we do that I think helps a lot is to limit the burden on a cash flow. Is if you do purchase it, we allow you to pay for it over 3 years, which is nice. And then during that 3 years, you don't have to pay that data hosting fee until year 4. So that's a pretty good thing that we do with resorts to help make that purchase a little bit easier. And then with a demo, one of the things SnowGage is really great about SnowGage is how easy it is to install it. So we'll do demos and you can try the system before you buy it. What we do is we just charge for whatever it costs to travel out there and install it. And then if you end up purchasing the system, we minus that off the purchase price. So the demo is included in the purchase price of the system. If you end up not purchasing it, then you just cover the costs of traveling out there to install it. And we talk about all that before the demo, so it's all known up front. So that's everything with the webinar. I hope I was able to keep that really informative for you guys. So I'm looking over here at the questions real quick, and someone asked, can it produce public-facing grooming reports? So that's one thing. It doesn't automatically produce the public-facing, but you are able to take the data and make a public-facing resort or a report. And we're actually looking at adding a list. One of the features to that report would be a list of all the trails that were groomed the previous night. So it makes it really easy. We haven't added that feature yet, but we're looking at adding that pretty soon. And then the annual software fees, yeah. So the first year you don't pay any software fees, and then to keep it active is $1,500 a year to keep it going, and that covers the data hosting and the cellular, and it's also a maintenance support plan. So we're always available at nighttime to help people to make sure their system never has downtime, and so it covers the cost of that. Yeah, and then the system is accurate to within plus or minus 4 inches. It's one of the other questions. Yeah, so the report comes on a PDF, and we don't have it as an option as a CSV file, but we have had that request, and we're looking at potentially adding so that the report can be easily put into data, right into a spreadsheet type format. So the durability of the mount, it's really good. The sensor itself is pretty tough, and then it's also surrounded by a steel mount that holds it onto the cat. So it handles the ice chunks and the snow really well. The one thing it's not going to handle is if you hit rocks, which surprisingly we've had resorts who hit rocks, but not much does survive that, even oil pans. So, but we have built it pretty tough. So it does really good under there. We don't have many of them get damaged. Let's see here. Yes, we're going to have a recording of this. I'll email it out, and it'll also be on our YouTube page, and I will put it on our SnowGage website also. Yeah, so that is one of the downsides of our system, and we do market this. The question is, has there been any issues with the sensor in a freestyle or variable terrain? And it is an alpine grooming system, and the reason it'll work really well to drive over and see how deep a kicker is, but it's not gonna, since the sensor's mounted to the cat, if you're driving up a kicker, a slope, now it's reading sideways. And so once you're up on top and it's reading straight down, then you're gonna get an accurate reading. But it does work pretty well to tell you the top most deep part, but as you're driving up a kicker, it's reading a little bit sideways, and it still gives you good data. It's just you have to account for that sideways angle of reading, and so for that reason we market it as a alpine grooming system, but it does work to tell you how tall your kickers are, or in a freestyle environment like that. I hope that's what you meant. And then, yeah, so using this technology in the summer to locate pipes, potentially yes. We haven't tested it for that, but that's what this technology was originally used for, the ground penetrating radar. So I'm not sure what that would look like if you driving snowcats in the summer. You'd probably have to take it off, and I don't know how that works with warranty and things. So, but we would definitely work with you on that, and theoretically, yes, that can work to identify pipes underground in the summer, but we haven't tested it or designed it for that. Let's see, questions. What sensor is it? The sensor is not vulnerable, I don't think. As long as it's being, I think I'm understanding your question, as long as it's being used on the snow, it's been tested and pretty rugged for that, any snow conditions. So in the CAT, there's two main views. There's the graph view and the map view. And so you can view the linear line that actually shows you driving over a pile, or you can view the summertime Google Earth image, and then it's mapping snow depth on top of that image. And then we're looking at adding that third view, which would show the raw wave picture of the snow. Appreciate all these questions. This is really good. So feel free to go ahead and keep typing questions. We can answer them in emails, or I can get on the phone and talk with anyone about any questions, but I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar now. And I just want to thank everyone again for your participation, and I'll have this emailed out and also a link on our YouTube page. So thanks, everyone.